Hello and welcome to Getting Your Money's Worth, the show that focuses on value. I'm Judith West, and our guest today is Louis Kilkenny, Chief Operating Officer of Neighborhood Housing Services of New York. And you want me to call you, I'm going to call you Louis, because it sounds good and friendly. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting us.
So let's start at the beginning. That's a mouthful, Neighborhood Housing Services of New York. Are you a government agency?
No, we're a not-for-profit private housing agency. We are Neighborhood Housing Services of New York City is the central office, and we do have 5 other sites across the city, 2 in Brooklyn, 1 in Queens, 2 in the Bronx, and 1 in Staten Island.
Okay, but you have a very very urban approach.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so you're nonprofit. Who funds you? If it's not the city, who is it?
A variety of agencies do fund us. We receive funding from, we're part of the National NeighborWorks Network.
Oh.
There are over 250
Yes.
such organizations. That's a not-for-profit chartered by Congress to promote community development lending. So we're funded in part by them. We're funded by the City of New York, primarily through individual contracts to our neighborhood offices, as well as HPD contracts. We're funded by the state of New York through the Division of Community Renewal and Housing, and so on.
So there's a decent amount of taxpayer money
invested in us, as well as we are funded also by private banks.
And you do a lot to help people that are taxpayers or want to become or what you'd like to see them become. Your population is mainly low income. Is that correct?
Not really.
Or am I wrong?
We provide services for anyone who is interested in home ownership acquisition, home ownership preservation. Our organization does have a target population of low and moderate income, but again, all of our programs are available to anyone.
Okay, fine. You must be pretty busy now, thinking of home ownership.
Yes, we certainly are.
Okay, so let's start. We're in the middle of a housing debacle here. How deeply are you immersed right now in helping people keep the homes they have, Louis?
Yes, the foreclosure prevention section of our organization has expanded over 100%.
I'm sure.
We have a number of counselors in every office who are engaged in prevention. Now, as an institution, we have been providing counseling, financial counseling to persons who wish to buy homes and who are already in homes. So we've been doing that for over 20 years. Right now, we've done a lot of focus on foreclosure prevention. We intervene on behalf of borrowers who are seeking to have their loans modified.
Yes.
So we do a lot of that kind of work. We're part of the Center for New York City Neighborhoods, which is also the city's initiative.
All right, let me ask you, I want to go back to this financial counseling. You know, it used to be that there was a formula. It was kind of a science. You looked at your income, after-tax income, and you made a determination as to whether you'd be able to buy a house and in what range. That old-fashioned, formula somehow got lost in the shuffle. Do you folks still adhere to these basics? You have to earn so much, and a week's salary shouldn't be more than a week's income to pay for a mortgage or whatever that formula is. Do you have some kind of a nuts and bolts guide?
Well, yes, actually, I would say in the 80s and in the 90s, a lot of the lending became what is called ratio lending.
What ratio?
Ratio lending.
Ratio
so they looked at your income, your before-tax income. And they said, well, your housing expenses should be no more than 1/3 of your before-tax income. And then the other debts that you have, if you put that together, those other debts, that should be no more than 40% of your income, your before-tax income. But however, in the 90s, there were a number of different loan products which kind of played around with that.
Yes.
And therefore, I think some people got into trouble in that
There was a real push, a drive to encourage home ownership.
Yes.
Not malevolent. The drive was that people should enjoy the American dream, and if you owned your own home, you'd take better care of it, and it would make you more of a solid citizen. There were all good reasons. But the good reasons became almost a road paved to hell.
Neighborhood Housing Services, as a part of the NeighborWorks network, has always been supportive of home ownership, but we've also always been supportive of affordable home ownership. That because in the end, even if you purchase a home, you have to be able to keep that
exactly.
home, both financially as well as physically.
Yeah.
Because we're about neighborhood preservation, so there's no point you're purchasing a home which then goes into disrepair, or purchasing a home which you cannot afford to keep.
Because it drags down the whole neighborhood.
Exactly.
Are you finding, Louis? I feel bad calling you Louis, but it's okay. You
want
me to.
It's quite fine.
And I'm Judy, so we're on first name basis here.
Thank you.
Do you have? What's the level of cooperation you get from banks in trying to help people stay in their house?
We have a number of bank partners who work with us. Sometimes, quite frankly, the negotiations are difficult in terms of people who are already in trouble and with whom we're trying to make some mortgage modifications. But as I said, we have a number of bank partners who work with us, and we do get a fair amount of cooperation. It is important that for those borrowers with whom we're trying to negotiate, that we get the correct information, we get accurate information, and within the lending institution, they are dedicated towards finding a solution for those borrowers, because we think that it is not in the bank's interest to be taking over people's homes. They're not in the real estate business. They want to work. We like to work things out. So we place a lot of emphasis on that.
Do you find that people that come to you that are in trouble have a willingness to stay in their house, or do they look around and say, I could go rent someplace cheaper and walk away from their responsibility?
At this time, we're still seeing that most people want to stay in their homes. And most people are trying to find a way to do that. Sometimes on a rare occasion, the purchase they made may have been beyond them when they made it, as well as in their present circumstance. And then we collectively have to find a way to get out of that, or to get out of that with dignity.
You know, that's a good word, to get out of it with dignity. What I've read is that so many people, it wasn't even their first mortgage necessarily, but so many people have borrowed so much against their house with home equity and second mortgages that they are very deeply underwater in terms of how much their house is worth compared to the debt they owe.
Right. That has been a problem. We have found instances where their houses have really been paid off. And because the values of homes appreciated so much earlier on in the last decade, that people were then able to go out and get equity loans against this artificial value. And now that has dropped, it is a problem.
It's kind of been referred to as using your house as an ATM machine or something.
Yes.
Are you shocked sometimes when you see the level of money that banks were willing to give to folks who may not have met the income standard?
Yes, we have been. We found that there were a number of people who were not necessarily the major banks, but offshoots of the banks or other kinds of lending agencies, which we think were just doing equity lending. Neighborhood Housing Services of New York City has always promoted lending based on credit, lending based on affordability. So, yes, we have been surprised when we've seen those things.
And then, of course, it got exacerbated by all the different banks selling everything off. If they had to keep it, they might have been on their own books. They might have been more careful. So, tell me something. Walk me through this. Somebody comes to you, a solid citizen kind of guy who's underwater. What's the first thing you do with them? You sit them down and debrief them on their financial background? Do you have counselors that do that?
We have counselors who sit with people one-on-one. We generally try to have broad-based classes or seminars so that everyone can come in, whether or not if you're purchasing a home, so you get an overview of what the purchasing process is.
I see.
If you're in foreclosure and seeking to then we have seminars which provide you with the general information as to what your rights are. What is the information you need to bring to us before we get into the one-on-one counseling? Because everybody's situation is unique.
But you do get into one-on-one counseling.
But we do get in foreclosure prevention, you have to.
Yeah, right.
So we do have...
So you have lawyers on staff who work with...
We don't have lawyers on staff who do that. As a part of the Center for New York City Neighborhoods, we work with South Brooklyn Legal Services and other legal services. And we refer people. We also have some lawyers on our boards who are also provide pro bono assistance. But what we do is we try to work with the borrower and his or her servicer to see if we can effect a solution. at least whatever is the solution being proposed by the lender, that we can review that and discuss and ensure that the terms are mutually beneficial.
Yeah. How many years have you been doing this? Your organization?
I've been working with, our organization has been in existence since 1982.
Right. And prior to all this subprime mortgage, your main focus was helping people buy houses.
We started off as a neighborhood preservation organization.
What does that mean exactly, Louis?
It means that we started off making loans to help people to fix their homes.
Oh.
To fix their homes.
Are you still doing that?
We still continue to do that.
Okay. All right, well, is that a big piece of your business now?
It is a core piece of our business. The home ownership, because we are, as a lender, we were making smaller loans. So it is financially, it is a smaller part of our business, but it is a core part of our business.
It's a core value of your
Yes.
Okay, so I don't want to close without getting that piece in. So folks who want to remodel, renovate, who fix up their house, they can actually borrow from you?
They can borrow money from us. We have an emergency loan program. It is cold if your boiler goes out in the winter.
Oh, that's it. And you also provide some kind of oversight to see if the money is properly spent or that people get an honest contractor. Do you still do that?
We still do that. We do have a construction services department so that if someone is coming to us to obtain funds to do financing for repairs, we will sit down and work with that borrower to design what exactly is to be done, what is called a scope of work. We will give a cost to it. The contractors, we will assist that they be licensed and insured. We have prepared contracts between the contractor and the homeowner to ensure that the method of disbursement of funds, is appropriate. Not, the homeowner does not give the contractor 90% of their funds
up front or something.
Or nothing of the kind.
Right. No references. Yeah.
Right. So, and we ensure that the contractors, we give them a choice of 3 contractors, or they can come with a contractor who is licensed and insured. We check the Department of Consumer Affairs to ensure that the contractor is licensed.
So you even approve or vet the contractor?
Well, yes, we certainly check to see that the contractor is licensed, and we require insurance documents to be provided for the safety of the homeowner at the time that the loans are made.
You must feel very good about what your organization does. You do good work.
Thank you very much.
And a lot of it, too.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't think that how do you advertise your services? Are you,
we, as a not-for-profit, we're always looking for more opportunities to do so.
Yeah, well.
Being on this show is one such opportunity.
Right. Well, I'm going to say that certainly anybody that comes to you for help gets their money's worth.
Thank you very much.
So and I know you're busy. These are very busy times for you, right?
Yes, it is.
Right. I want to say thank you for being on the show. We appreciate the work you've done. And thanks to everyone for watching.